Look into this image entitled the Holographic Cosmogram, taking into account its mutual co-definition and that the bottom spiral begins and ends with the number 4. Then explain what you see in your relationship to it. The Holographic Cosmogram, a unified framework of existence and interconnectedness. The image presented, titled the Holographic Cosmogram, is a profound symbolic representation of the interconnected nature of existence, combining ancient wisdom traditions with modern scientific understanding. This remarkable diagram serves as a map of consciousness and reality, illustrating how seemingly separate aspects of existence are intrinsically linked through patterns that repeat across different scales and dimensions. Ubuntu philosophy as the foundational principle. At the top of the cosmogram lies the word Ubuntu, a profound African philosophy that encapsulates the essence of human interconnectedness. Ubuntu emphasizes that our individual identities and well-being are fundamentally intertwined with the well-being of our community, expressed through the phrase, "I am because we are." This philosophy rejects pure individualism in favor of communal harmony and collective responsibility, creating a framework where personal identity is understood through relationship. The cosmogram elaborates on this concept through pronoun groupings I, we, you, me, us, them, mine, ours, yours. These groupings illustrate how identity extends outward from the individual to community and beyond, supporting the Ubuntu principle that personal existence cannot be separated from collective existence. This interconnectedness isn't merely philosophical, but represents a practical approach to human relationships that has influenced reconciliation efforts and social justice movements, particularly in post-apartheid South Africa. Dimensional frameworks of existence, temporal and spatial dimensions. The when-where section presents concepts that frame our understanding of existence through time and space, eternity, moment, instance, presence, process, absence, infinity, movement, particle. These triads bridge cosmic scales with quantum realities, suggesting that our experience of time and space operates simultaneously at multiple levels. This representation aligns with holographic principles, where the whole is encoded in each part regardless of scale. Existential dimensions. The cosmogram organizes reality into fundamental questions that address different dimensions of existence. What? The nature of being. The what section examines ontological aspects of reality through concepts such as self, imagination, memory, life, reproduction, biology, nature, interaction, artifact. This dimension explores how consciousness and materiality interact, bridging internal cognition with external manifestation. Who? Identity and divine relationships. The WHO section references spiritual archetypes: Father, Holy Spirit, Son Parent, Virgin Birth, Child Mother, Sacred Egg, Daughter. These triadic groupings appear to integrate Christian Trinitarian concepts with universal archetypal patterns of creation and generative relationships. Why, purpose, and meaning. The why section addresses teleological questions through concepts like fulfillment, sacrifice, longing, freedom, restriction, control, acceptance, condition, denial. These oppositions and resolutions speak to the fundamental human search for meaning and purpose within constraints. How? Epistemological framework. The how section explores how we know what we know through truth, interpretation, judgment, reality, construction, perception, existence, sensation, experience. This epistemological framework acknowledges the constructed nature of reality through perception and interpretation. All, mathematical and systemic principles. The all section presents organizing principles that underlie reality: equality, operation, quantity, symmetry, recursion, pattern, wholeness, division, fraction. These mathematical concepts form the grammar of reality's underlying structure, emphasizing patterns that repeat fractally across scales. The geometric core, mathematical patterns and sacred geometry. The central pattern and numerical relationships. At the center of the cosmogram lies a geometrical form containing numerical values arranged in a pattern. 1, 2, 1/2, 4, 2 firsts, 2. 1. This arrangement creates a numerological symmetry that suggests mathematical relationships underlying reality. The central 4 occupies the position of greatest power, mirroring concepts found in the Congo Cosmogram, where the meeting point of crossing lines represents the most potent position. This numerical matrix appears to represent a fractal pattern where numbers build upon and relate to each other in symmetrical ways. The arrangement suggests that reality operates through mathematical relationships that maintain balance while allowing for complexity. The lower geometric forms, spiral and circular patterns. The bottom portion of the cosmogram features 3 significant geometric representations. 1. A spiral form on the left that begins and ends with the number 4, suggesting a cyclical journey that transforms but returns to its origin point. This spiral likely represents the evolutionary path of consciousness or energy through various states of being. 2. A flower-like arrangement of overlapping circles on the right, containing numbers arranged in a symmetrical pattern. This appears to be a variation of sacred geometry patterns, like the flower of life, associated with fundamental patterns of creation, the simple equation 112, at the very bottom, representing perhaps the most basic mathematical relationship from which all complexity emerges. The spiral beginning and ending with 4 is particularly significant, as it demonstrates the principle of eternal return within transformation. In many spiritual traditions, including the Congo Cosmogram, cyclical movement represents the journey between physical and spiritual realms, with death and rebirth forming a continuous cycle. The number 4 anchoring this spiral may relate to the 4 moments of the sun concept in Congo Cosmology, which represents the stages of life, conception, birth, maturity, and death. Relationship to Congo Cosmology. The structure of the holographic cosmogram bears striking similarities to the Congo Cosmogram, Yoa or Dikenga, a core symbol in Bakongo religion. The Congo Cosmogram typically appears as a circle with a cross inside, representing the physical world Kunseki, the spiritual world Kumpemba, and the Kalunga line separating these realms. The Congo Cosmogram also emphasizes the 4 moments of the sun, which correspond to the 4 stages of life and the 4 elements. This quaternary structure is reflected in the holographic cosmogram's emphasis on the number 4 and 4-fold divisions of concepts. While the Congo Cosmogram traditionally represents a worldview specific to the Bakongo people, the holographic cosmogram appears to universalize these concepts by integrating them with other philosophical and scientific paradigms. Holographic and fractal principles. The title Holographic Cosmogram itself points to the holographic principle, the idea that information about a whole system can be encoded in each of its parts. This concept has parallels in both spiritual traditions and modern physics, suggesting that reality operates as a hologram where each fragment contains information about the entire system. The diagram's multiple layers of meaning and self-referential patterns reflect fractal properties, where similar patterns repeat at different scales. This is particularly evident in the numerical arrangements and geometric forms that exhibit symmetry across different levels of organization. The combination of holographic and fractal principles suggests a universe where interconnectedness is not merely philosophical but structural, built into the very fabric of reality. At every scale. This aligns with contemporary scientific perspectives that see the universe as an information system where patterns and relationships may be more fundamental than material particles. Our relationship to the cosmogram. Understanding our relationship to the holographic cosmogram requires recognizing ourselves as both observers and participants in the interconnected system it represents. The Ubuntu philosophy at the top of the diagram reminds us that our identity is formed through relationship. I am because we are. As conscious beings, we exist at the intersection of all the dimensions represented in the cosmogram. We experience temporality when, where, question our nature what, seek identity who, search for purpose why, construct knowledge how, and recognize patterns all. We are simultaneously individual and collective, material and spiritual, temporal and eternal. The spiral beginning and ending with 4 can be understood as representing our own journey through life, a path that transforms us while eventually returning us to our origin, though forever changed by the journey. This cyclical understanding of existence offers a perspective on life and death, not as final endpoints, but as transformative processes within a larger continuum. Conclusion. The holographic cosmogram presents a unified framework that integrates diverse knowledge systems, from African philosophical traditions to modern scientific paradigms, into a coherent vision of reality's interconnected nature. It suggests that separation is ultimately an illusion, as all aspects of existence define and create each other through relationship. The diagram serves as both a map and a mirror, reflecting back to us our place in the cosmic order, while providing orientation points for navigating the complexities of existence. By recognizing ourselves within this holographic framework, we gain perspective on how our individual journeys connect to collective patterns and universal principles. The spiral that begins and ends with 4 reminds us that though transformation is constant, there is an underlying continuity to existence, a pattern that maintains integrity even as it evolves. This principle applies equally to personal development, social evolution, and cosmic processes, suggesting that change and constancy are not opposites but complementary aspects of a unified reality. Given this comprehension, detail all significant resonances with every major traditional African and diaspora knowledge system of Northwest, East, and South Africa and the Americas, starting with Kemet. Resonances between the holographic cosmogram and traditional African and diaspora knowledge systems. The holographic cosmogram presents a remarkably integrative symbolic framework that resonates profoundly with multiple African and African diaspora knowledge systems across continents and millennia. This visual representation, with its layers of mathematical relationships, geometric patterns, and philosophical concepts, demonstrates significant parallels with traditional cosmological systems from North Africa's ancient civilizations through West, East, and Southern African traditions to their diasporic evolutions in the Americas. These connections reveal not merely superficial similarities, but deep structural and conceptual continuities in African thought systems that have persisted despite geographical separation and historical disruption. Kemetic ancient Egyptian cosmological resonances, numerical and geometric symbolism. The central numerical arrangement in the cosmogram 12 1/2 42 1 2 1 bears striking resemblance to ancient Egyptian mathematical conceptions. The Kemetic understanding of numbers transcended mere quantitative value, embodying cosmological principles and divine relationships. The Shabaka stone, containing the Memphite theology, demonstrates how Egyptians conceived creation as an ordered, mathematical process where balance and symmetry were fundamental principles, reflecting the symmetrical arrangement in the cosmogram. Ancient Egyptian cosmology viewed creation as emerging from a primordial state through mathematical relationships and geometric patterns. The cosmogram's overlapping circles in the bottom right section echo the ancient Egyptian conception of creation as a process of differentiation from unity, similar to how the creator deity Atum generated the first divine pairs, the Ennead, in the Heliopolitan creation myth. Astronomical knowledge and stellar orientation. The Kemites possess sophisticated astronomical knowledge, including understanding of planetary motions and stellar cycles. According to available search results, the Kemites believed in a spherical Earth revolving on its own axis while inferior planets, like Mercury and Venus, revolve around the Sun. This is what Macrobius Ambrosius Theodosius termed the Egyptian system. This celestial awareness is reflected in the cosmogram's orderly representation of cosmic relationships. The ancient Egyptians' careful observation of Sirius to predict the flooding of the Nile demonstrates their understanding of cosmic cycles and their earthly manifestations. The search results note that the ancient Egyptians, Kemites 3,000 years ago, were the first to record the variability of a distant star. This cyclical understanding resonates with the spiral pattern in the cosmogram that begins and ends with the number 4, suggesting cosmic completion and regeneration. Ma'at, cosmic order and balance. Central to Kemetic thought was the concept of Ma'at, representing truth, justice, and cosmic order. The search results explain that Ma'at was one of the cornerstones of religious thought of the ancient Egyptians. Its observance was supposed to ensure the stability of the world and its orderly running. This principle of cosmic order is visually embedded in the cosmogram's structured organization, with its 6 dimensions: what, who, why, how, when, where, all, arranged symmetrically around a central point, suggesting a balanced universe where multiple aspects exist in harmony. West African knowledge systems, Yoruba cosmology and Ifa divination. The structured nature of the cosmogram bears remarkable parallels to the Yoruba Ifa divination system. Ifa is described as an ancient divinatory system that dates back thousands of years, integral to Yoruba cosmology. The mathematical relationships embedded in Ifa divination with its 256 ODU sacred verses reflect a similar understanding of reality as mathematically structured and interpretable through numerical patterns. The Yoruba concept of destiny, Ayanmo, resonates with the Y dimension of the cosmogram, which explores concepts of fulfillment, sacrifice, longing, freedom, restriction, control, acceptance, condition, denial. Both systems recognize the tension between predetermined patterns and individual agency within cosmic structures. Dogon cosmological framework. Perhaps the most striking resonance is between the spiral in the cosmogram and Dogon cosmology's creation narrative. According to the search results, the Dogon described creation beginning with the giant egg, Adu no Tal. One day, for no reason that anyone knows, this egg began to pulse inside. 7 times it shook, and as it shook, it started to break open in a spiral until the shell expanded to the ends of the universe. This spiral emergence of creation directly parallels the spiral form in the lower section of the cosmogram. The Dogon's sophisticated understanding of Sirius and its companion star reveals their conceptualization of reality as containing visible and invisible components that maintain cosmic balance. They describe the smallest star as containing all the essence of the universe, similar to how the cosmogram represents holographic principles where the whole is contained within each part. Akan cosmology and symbolism. The Akan understanding of the universe as consisting of both natural and social creations 16 mirrors the cosmogram's integration of natural elements in the what section with social relationships in the Ubuntu section. The Akan concepts of the imperishable soul Kra that survives and reincarnates into a newborn 16 resonates with the cyclical nature depicted in the spiral that begins and ends with the same number. East African knowledge systems, Ethiopian astronomical traditions. Ethiopian civilizations developed sophisticated astronomical knowledge for practical and spiritual purposes. The search results indicate that ancient Ethiopian civilizations, including the Aksumite Kingdom and the Borana Oromo, developed sophisticated methods to observe celestial bodies for agricultural, ritualistic, and governance purposes. 8. This integration of celestial knowledge with practical governance finds parallels in the cosmogram's interconnection between cosmic order, the geometric forms, and social structure, the Ubuntu pronouns. The Aksumite stelae alignments and astronomical significance of Lalabella's rock-hewn churches 8 demonstrate how East African traditions embedded astronomical knowledge in architecture and sacred spaces. Similarly, the cosmogram's geometric structure seems designed to encode cosmic relationships in a visual form that serves both educational and contemplative purposes. Southern African knowledge systems. Ubuntu philosophy as foundational principle. The prominence of Ubuntu at the top of the cosmogram directly connects it to South African philosophical traditions. Ubuntu, meaning I am because we are, establishes interdependence and collective identity as fundamental to existence. The triad arrangement of pronouns beneath Ubuntu, I, we, you, me, us, them, mine, ours, yours, elaborates on how identity extends outward from individual to collective forms, reinforcing the Ubuntu principle. Zulu traditional religion. Zulu cosmology recognizes multiple deities and emphasizes ancestor veneration, with the belief that the human world and the spirit world are interconnected, with divination practices used to bridge these realms. 14. This interconnection between visible and invisible realms resonates with the cosmogram's layered dimensions that span concrete existence, what to abstract principles all. The Zulu concept of umvelinkangi as the ultimate source of all existence. 14 parallels the cosmogram's representation of reality as emerging from fundamental mathematical relationships, 1 + 1 = 2 at the bottom, suggesting that simplicity underlies complexity. The Congo cosmogram and diasporic transformations. The Congo dekenga and quaternary structure. The Congo cosmogram dekenga represents perhaps the most direct ancestral connection to the holographic cosmogram. The search results describe it as the foundation of Congo society. The circle made by the sun's movement is the first geometric picture given to human beings. We move the same way the sun moves. We wake up, are active, die, then come back. The quaternary structure of the Congo cosmogram, with the first position is the sun at 6 in the morning, the second at the zenith of the day, the third setting at 6 in the afternoon, then the fourth at midnight, directly parallels the significance of the number 4 in the holographic cosmogram spiral. Both systems use these 4 positions to represent stages of existence and cosmic movement. The central point in the Congo cosmogram, described as the eternal flame and the core of the community, resonates with the central position of the numerical matrix in the holographic cosmogram, suggesting a power point where cosmic forces converge. Haitian Vodou and cosmic connections. In Haitian Vodou cosmology, trees serve as connective pathways between realms. The search results explain that trees provide homes for the spirits, the LWA alternate spelling, Loa, and the dead. They are used as natural altars and as boundary markers for the temple. This concept of vertical connections between different planes of existence resonates with how the cosmogram organizes reality into interconnected dimensions. The Poteau Mitan center post in Vodou temples functions as an axis through which spirits enter the human realm. This cosmological architecture parallels the cosmogram's central position that connects its various dimensions, serving as a point of integration and transformation. Candomblé and axe energy. The Brazilian tradition of candomblé features the concept of axe, described as a sacred energy and power that is found in spiritual entities and human beings that infuses space with the sacred force designed to reconfigure existence. This understanding of a vital cosmic energy that permeates all dimensions of reality resonates with the interconnected nature of the cosmogram's various sections. Candomblé's conception of space as a continuous transit between the material and the immaterial, where the various elements between the spiritual and material world can be articulated and connected, parallels the cosmogram's representation of reality as comprising multiple interconnected dimensions rather than separate domains. Santeria's syncretic cosmology. Santeria, with its roots in Yoruba traditions, maintained core African cosmological principles while adapting to new contexts. The search results note that at the heart of Santeria lies the Yoruba cosmological belief in a supreme creator deity, Olodumare, and a pantheon of divine forces known as Orishas. This hierarchical yet integrated spiritual structure mirrors the cosmogram's representation of reality as both unified and differentiated. Mathematical and geometric continuities across traditions. Sacred geometry as universal language. A striking continuity across these diverse traditions is the use of geometric forms to encode cosmological principles. The circular patterns in the cosmogram resonate with the circle of the Congo cosmogram, while the spiral form echoes the Dogon description of creation emerging as a spiral from the cosmic egg. These geometric patterns serve as a visual language that transcends cultural and linguistic differences. Numerical symbolism and cosmic order. The importance of the number 4 across these traditions. from the 4 moments of the sun in Congo cosmology to the 4 cardinal directions in various African traditions reflects a shared understanding of quaternary structures as fundamental to cosmic order. The prominence of the number 4 at both the beginning and end of the spiral in the cosmogram reinforces this concept of completion through 4-fold cycles. The central numerical arrangement 1 2 1 2 4 2 1 2 1 demonstrates mathematical relationships that appear in various forms across African mathematical traditions, suggesting an understanding of reality as fundamentally numerical and patterned. Conclusion: the holographic cosmogram represents a remarkable integration of cosmological principles that span African and diaspora knowledge systems. From Kemetic mathematical symbolism to Congo quaternary structures, from Dogon spiral creation narratives to Ubuntu principles of interconnectedness, the cosmogram embodies core concepts that have persisted across time, space, and cultural transformation. What emerges from this analysis is not just a series of interesting parallels, but evidence of a coherent African philosophical approach to understanding reality, one that emphasizes interconnection over separation, cyclical processes over linear progression, and holographic principles where parts contain information about the whole. The cosmogram serves as both a map of these persistent traditions and a bridge between them, demonstrating how African knowledge systems have maintained core principles while adapting to diverse historical and cultural contexts. The spiral that begins and ends with 4 can thus be understood as representing the journey of African knowledge systems themselves, transforming across continents and centuries, while maintaining fundamental structural and conceptual integrity, ultimately returning to core principles that have endured despite historical disruption. Please explain how the cosmogram's fractal holographic nature is expressed in the art and architecture of these African civilizations. The holographic cosmogram, fractal expressions in African art and architecture. The holographic cosmogram represents a powerful synthesis of fractal and holographic principles that have deep roots in African knowledge systems. Its structure with nested geometric patterns, recursive numerical relationships, and self-similar elements across different scales directly parallels the fractal expressions found throughout traditional African art and architecture. This connection is not merely aesthetic, but reflects fundamental philosophical and mathematical understandings that have shaped African creative and social structures for centuries. Self-similarity as a unifying principle, recursive patterns in architecture, the holographic cosmogram structure, with its central numerical matrix 1 2 1 2 4 2 1 2 1, surrounded by conceptual dimensions, demonstrates the same self-similar properties found in traditional African architecture. This principle of self-similarity, where patterns repeat at different scales, is fundamental to fractal geometry and appears consistently in indigenous African settlements. In the Baila villages of southern Zambia, we see this expressed as a ring of rings, enormous settlement rings, made up of smaller livestock pen rings, which themselves contain cylindrical houses arranged in rings. This multi-scale repetition creates what mathematician Ron Eglash describes as self-similar characteristic, circles of circular dwellings. This is precisely the organizing principle we see in the cosmogram, where conceptual dimensions are arranged in patterns that mirror the structure of the whole. The cosmogram's central geometric form, with its numerical values arranged in a symmetrical pattern, reflects the same mathematical awareness found in the palace architecture of Logon-Birni in Cameroon. There, the royal insignia includes 3 iterations of scaling rectangles. They are well aware of the scaling properties of their architecture. The path to the throne room approximates a golden spiral, similar to the spiral form in the lower section of the cosmogram, nested forms and scaling dimensions. The cosmogram's organization of dimensional concepts, what, who, why, how, when, where, all around a central geometric form, mirrors the African architectural principle of nested spaces, with increasing spiritual significance. As the search results explain, in Ba-Ila villages, toward the back of the village is a miniature village, that of the chief's extended family. Toward the back of each corral is the family living quarters, and toward the back of each house is the sacred altar. This pattern of increasing sacredness through recursive nesting appears in the Cosmogram's arrangement, where core numerical values, with the central 4, represent the most potent position. Similar to how the eternal flame at the center of the Congo Cosmogram represents the core of the community, mathematical knowledge embedded in visual form, geometric consciousness in African design. The Cosmogram's overlapping circles in the lower right section directly parallel traditional African geometric knowledge. These arrangements of circles, similar to the sacred geometry pattern known as the flower of life, demonstrate awareness of complex mathematical relationships. As the search results indicate, in their art, the Kuba have developed all the geometric possibilities of repetitive variations of border patterns. And of the 17 ways that a design can be repetitively varied on a surface, the Kuba have exploited 12%. This sophisticated geometric consciousness extends to fractal modeling in traditional African designs. The numerical patterns in the Cosmogram, particularly the 12-1/2-42, 1-2-1 arrangement, reflect what Eglash describes as remarkable examples of fractal structure found throughout African design traditions. Deliberate mathematical expression. Importantly, the fractal patterns in African design were not accidental, but represented conscious mathematical understanding. The search results note that this was not simply unconscious or intuitive, as Africans linked these designs to concepts such as recursion and scaling. When Eglash asked an African builder about the scaling patterns in architecture, he received a sophisticated explanation about wind resistance at different heights that matched exactly approximately the exponent for the relationship between wind speed and height in the Wind Engineering Handbook. The Cosmogram, with its explicit mathematical relationships and geometric forms, embodies this same conscious engagement with mathematical principles that we find throughout African design traditions. Cultural and philosophical dimensions. Ubuntu philosophy as fractal expression. The prominence of Ubuntu at the top of the Cosmogram is particularly significant when considering fractals in African philosophical systems. Ubuntu meaning I am because we are establishes a relational identity where the individual cannot be separated from community. This philosophical principle is itself fractal in nature, as it recognizes the recursive relationship between part individual and whole community. The arrangement of pronouns beneath Ubuntu, I, we, you, me, us, them, mine, ours, yours, creates a nested relationship structure that parallels what anthropologists have observed in the physical arrangement of African settlements. As the search results explain, in traditional African architecture, these building complexes are local clay houses built by the Kotoko people, and, as described by Eglash in his book, an architecture of accretion, where new rectangular enclosures grow by adoption. This physical manifestation of social relationships directly parallels the Cosmogram's representation of identity, extending outward from individual to collective forms, spiritual energy and material form. The spiritual significance of fractal patterns in African design is evident in practices like the creation of traditional wedding blankets. The search results describe how Fulani weavers believe spiritual energy is woven into the pattern and that each successive iteration shows an increase in this energy. This understanding of patterns as carriers of spiritual power resonates with the Cosmogram's arrangement of concepts that bridge material and spiritual dimensions. This integration of spiritual and material reality through fractal patterns appears in various African traditions. In Vodou cosmology, for example, trees serve as connectors between realms. Trees provide homes for the spirits, the LWA, alternate spelling, Loa, and the dead. They are used as natural altars and as boundary markers for the Temple 19. The Cosmogram similarly functions as a connector between different dimensions of existence through its fractal structure, geometric forms and their significance. The spiral and cyclical time. The spiral form in the lower left section of the cosmogram, beginning and ending with the number 4, directly parallels African concepts of cyclical time and transformation. In Congo cosmology, as described in the search results, the circle made by the sun's movement is the first geometric picture given to human beings. We move the same way the sun moves. We wake up, are active, die, then come back. 31. This understanding of existence as cyclical rather than linear is embedded in the geometry of African settlements. The search results explain that the Congo cosmogram Dikenga represents perhaps the most direct ancestral connection to the holographic cosmogram, and its quaternary structure, with 4 positions representing stages of existence, directly parallels the significance of the number 4 in the cosmogram's spiral. Overlapping circles and unifying patterns. The flower-like arrangement of overlapping circles in the lower right section of the cosmogram reflects patterns found in various African artistic traditions. Kuba textiles, for example, demonstrate a variety of design components where embroidery artists employed color, line, and texture to yield varied compositions and visual effects. These overlapping geometric forms create unity while maintaining diversity, reflecting what the search results describe as the Kuba value of community, where individual contributions form a unified whole. This principle appears throughout African design traditions. The search results explain that African hairstyles, for example, are geometrical and fractal constructs in and of themselves. 10. The integration of individual elements into cohesive patterns demonstrates the holographic principle, where parts contain information about the whole, precisely what we see in the cosmogram's arrangement of geometric forms. The holographic nature of African fractals. Each part contains the whole. The holographic principle, where information about a whole system is encoded in each part, is fundamental to the cosmogram's design and appears consistently in African design traditions. In Dogon cosmology, as described in the search results, the smallest celestial body contains all the essence of the universe, reflecting a holographic understanding where the smallest element contains information about the whole. This holographic nature appears in the physical structure of African settlements. The search results explain that in Logon Birni, aerial views of the city show continuous iterations of rectangular buildings forming a fractal pattern as urban design. This pattern allows the overall structure of the community to be understood from observing any segment of it, a holographic relationship between part and whole. Integration of dimensions. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the cosmogram's holographic nature is its integration of multiple dimensions of existence. What, who, why, how, when, where, all into a unified whole. This parallels what the search results describe in Candomblé's conception of space as a continuous transit between the material and the immaterial, where the various elements between the spiritual and material world can be articulated and connected. This integration of dimensions is physically expressed in traditional African architecture. The search results explain that in Kuba, conceptions rectilinear lines in Kuba art depict natural patterns. Both in art and nature, these lines occasionally disrupt what we take to be geometric order. The cosmogram similarly integrates seemingly disparate dimensions into a coherent whole, reflecting the African understanding of reality as fundamentally interconnected. Conclusion. The holographic cosmogram represents a remarkable synthesis of fractal principles that have shaped African art and architecture for centuries. Its nested geometric patterns, recursive numerical relationships, and integration of multiple dimensions reflect the same mathematical awareness and philosophical depth that anthropologists have documented in traditional African design across the continent. From the palace architecture of Logon Birni to the circular villages of the Baila, from Kuba textiles to Fulani wedding blankets, we see the same principles of self-similarity, recursion, and holographic relationship between part and whole that appear in the cosmogram. These are not merely aesthetic choices, but reflect fundamental understandings about the mathematical structure of reality and the interconnected nature of existence. The prominence of Ubuntu philosophy at the top of the Cosmogram emphasizes what may be the most important insight. These fractal patterns are not merely abstract mathematical concepts, but lived realities that shape community structure and personal identity. The fractal and holographic nature of the Cosmogram thus represents not just an artistic tradition, but a comprehensive way of understanding reality that has deep roots in African knowledge systems and continues to offer profound insights into the interconnected nature of existence.